So, building on the last video, this tends to be a trend, like an intro to all my videos. But I have a question. If I am somebody who suggests, okay, you know what, I'm a new mom. I may be in my like midlife, so I might be in my late 30s, early 40s. I have a young boy or a young girl, and I'm willing to almost let them follow, the celebrity trend. And I'm not going to try to hold them back or scare them about what consequences might kind of arise from their choices. I'm just going to say, you know what, I'm going to leave you to the world almost as it is. And then I'll be here if you need any support or any advice. But, go on to the internet, make friends, try to see how you want to make choices. And, like I wish you the best. It's not like you're kicking them out of the house or anything, but it's almost to say, I'm just going to be here almost like as an advisor. So imagine that's basically the scenario when a lot of people go to university. So that's almost allowing yourself to think maybe about 12 years in advance, where some people choose to leave home and then kind of venture off on their own. So I'm thinking this way because kids are actually able to think abstractly now at a lot younger of an age than 12. So this is almost preparing kids at 10, let's say, or 8. So we're just shaving off a few years from what we maybe understood from like theorists from a long time ago about development. Let's just try and see what happens. So let's assume that you are from a traditional family and you were raised in a very conservative way. And you're trying to understand, because celebrity comes in a lot of different ways in different countries, right? So in Egypt, celebrity is a thing. Like they have their cinema. If you go to India and Pakistan, I'm sure it's the same thing. Different president of England, obviously, and then you've got North America, you've got Canada. So it's cool. It's kind of curious to think about how, and then Australia. Like there's I think a series on YouTube or Netflix that talks about kind of like these supernatural powers. So there are these girls who have mermaid powers, or like anytime they go into water, they kind of exhibit different kind of powers, and they're trying to kind of figure out like, do we want this or do we not want it? And then why is it just us? And then I didn't finish the series, but they're almost trying to hide what they have in them from a boy, and it's almost like I wonder if he has something. It's kind of how I ended it. I didn't finish the series. So this is kind of something to think about, because it's almost to suggest, well, we started off talking about meaning, and we talked about how to think about meaning um, in a contemporary way, which is almost to say in a postmodern way, which is, as a parent, I was maybe taught that there's a correct way to think about the universe. But now that I'm understanding that, even though I was taught this, I'm learning that there's a lot of different ways now. And maybe I want my kids to think about that, and then maybe that will lead them back into tradition, like what 2,000 years ago looked like versus today. And I'm not really sure how to do that, but I'm just going to let them kind of go with where their heart takes them. So that's kind of a big step, because not all parents know how to do that. And sometimes if they do, their own parents, so like the kids' grandparents might not support that. And so the parents are almost stuck in a pickle, and they're just like, I don't know how to move, like to satisfy both ends of like people who are important in my life. So imagine you're just thinking, well, you know what? In different cinemas, love is kind of depicted in different ways. So maybe that will help us understand what different cultures do around conservative parents, for example. So you're just going to kind of let it go. So now think about this. From a celebrity's perspective in North America, we assume that they're allowed to experiment with relationships. So we assume that it's okay for them to maybe have a relationship that lasts for maybe, like, it's just a dinner, right? We're just gonna go out for dinner, and then after that we realize, you know what? I just didn't feel like we could be like a romantic couple. Like I think we're just gonna be friends, because the way I feel about you is maybe uh, not the way I imagined it would be, right? So it's good that you're honest, even though it might sound hurtful, like, oh man, like, but at least you're being honest with each other, so that going forward, both of you are not building different expectations, and you're not almost setting up each other for even more disappointment in the future. So you're not going to say like, well, maybe we should give it a try, and then maybe not, and then the whole relationship, that's basically what's going on in your mind. And then the other person's like, oh, we think everything's going great, right? So what you can think, like from an empathetic perspective, is if I already know that, I shouldn't maybe take up this person's time, right? I could say we can remain friends, and I want to remain friends, but if you're looking for a romantic relationship, maybe I can it's almost like you can look for somebody else, or I can hook you up with a friend, right? So it's almost like we can try to figure out a different way to maybe diversify maybe our social circle and still remain like connected, right? So that's the way. There's no way of saying that this is going to be the right way or this is not the right way. Now, think about somebody who's not in that celebrity circle, right? Let's say it's a smaller city and somebody's trying to experiment with that, and they want to assume that the same thing, that my life as a like just a normal person is going to be like that celebrity. I don't know why we assume that of celebrities, because maybe we just assume like they have busier lifestyle, so it's almost very difficult for them to have a long-term relationship. But anyway, this boy or girl who's 8, they're like, yeah, I think that's normal. So they go and they like these two kids. They're not really kids anymore. They're kind of teens. They're getting into their teen years, and they're thinking, yeah, yeah, we're old enough. We want to do this, and they decide we want to have a serious relationship. And to them, their emotions are big and they're really, really valid. And to belittle them is really unfair to them. So I'm making light of it as though to say this is how we think it is, as a simple kind of experiment for kids. When we know as adults, it's really difficult, right? So we shouldn't try to make it seem as, you know, uh, we can make it lighthearted, but we shouldn't make it insignificant. So let's assume that we're going to try this. I wouldn't even know what to expect as that parent. I would be like, I don't know, like how do I know how to respond to like the other parents' kids? Like, are they going to be okay with this? And then, so that's something now that you have to struggle with. So then it just becomes like, I guess I'm just gonna have to trust the universe. Like I'm gonna have to trust the universe with myself and with like other people's kids, and then you understand why people want religion and why they want faith and why they don't want to have like all this responsibility on their mind all the time, because then it almost becomes impossible to be like, how do I prioritize what to worry about? Like I can't worry about all this. I can't keep track of all this. And then they almost want to build robots that help them help like, okay, what's this kid doing at this time and what's this mother thinking, and how I have to connect with like all these parents and I have to figure out who's understanding what about their life, and then add this friend and add this Facebook, and then basically your whole life could be connected on the internet and you have no idea like how to actually be a human with another human anymore. So it's a very difficult thing to think about technology and how to integrate it between like a lived life experience and how to understand like what why is technology really actually important? And it is. I'm not going to write it off, because we are at a point right now where we are relying on technology so much now that it's almost helping us understand why we need to be our more attuned human self, right? So if I'm thinking I'm just going to let it go, because I know in the past that kids have been at a young age getting married and they're successful, like they're almost building a life with somebody that they care about, and they're almost like doing it together in a way that um, they're supporting each other in a way. So even if it ends up just being friends, that's actually a really good thing. Like one movie, I can't remember what it was called. It was with Owen Wilson. um, I'll probably link it below. But he said friendship is one of the rarest things in the world because it has no cost and benefit exchange. It really is just an altruistic kind of exchange where you just want to be there for somebody. So if you can actually start a life where you have that person that you can call a friend because they've just been there for like, if you're like 50 and you know that you had a friend that's been in your life for almost 40 years and you're not married but you're just really that close, that's a really big accomplishment. So I'm just going to leave it at that and just kind of let us all think about, the value of building that kind of human potential in people.